to the fabulous first edition of the Big Gold Podcast, your Monday morning hour of power when we cover Monday Nitro in its entirety.
That's right, folks. We cover everything from Lex Luger making a ripple to the Giants' exposed nipple.
Right you are, and we will be your guides through this professional wrestling odyssey. The voices of tomorrow, Mr. Peace, everyone, and I am Mike Ogden wishing all of you an enjoyable Monday morning.
All right, let's get to it and ring the bell.
All right, everybody, so the way we're going to do this is kind of an open floor discussion about Monday Nitro, all of the matches, all of the promos, just everything about it in its entirety. I'm going to start us off by saying I did not enjoy the first episode of Monday Nitro.
I'm going to start in and say that you are shaking in your boots shit ass wrong. And I feel like in any debate forum, whether it's publicly or privately, if you describe someone as shit ass wrong, you automatically win. So we can just wrap this episode up. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next Monday.
All right, wonderful. Nailed this up in 1 minute.
I've got so much more to do with my day. But this is the first episode of Monday Night Nitro. We're coming from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I can't tell you how many times when I was watching this, I kept writing Minneapolis, Montana. But we are here September 4th, 1995. I want to say this intro video, the package, gets me hyped. Still to this day, it is so great. With like the big videos of like Hogan and Vader, and actually Vader's not even on this episode because he beat the living shit out of Paul. Due to the speculation, he beat the shit out of Paul Orndorff and got fired from WCW right before this. So he's like, unlike the video package and everything, but you've got the videos up on the buildings, the manhole blowing off. Like, it's a really, really great video package. I love it. It gets me hyped to watch some wrestling.
Absolutely. That was actually always my favorite part, is you get so hyped just for the idea of WCW back in the 90s. You hear all of the names, you see all of the faces. They're all gigantic stars.
Oh, it's awesome.
And you're just super hyped to watch what's about to happen. It just doesn't change the fact that when you're watching Sting wrestle Ric Flair and all he's doing is military pressing him for 15 minutes, it's not enjoyable. I'm sorry.
And we'll get into that. So Nitro starts off, Eric Bischoff is leading us in, and then exactly the 54-second mark, if you're watching at home, Nitro comes crashing down. You see automatically why they lost the Monday Night War, and the company just went to shambles because Mongo McMichaels opens his mouth and starts speaking.
Yeah,
that
was awful.
Was terrible. He is dressed in my stepmom's best Easter dinner outfit. If we're doing a worst dressed, best dressed for this, Mongo gets worst dressed, and I would say Arn Anderson gets best dressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. If not him, then Macho Man.
Oh, great. So Mongo comes in, and then Bobby Heenan comes automatically to come save us, like the savior wrestling commentating messiah that he is. And then he goes to shake Mongo's hand, and Mongo has one of those goofy, what is it, like what do you even call those things? Like the 1950s, a little electrical, like,
oh yeah,
the little shock thing.
Yeah, the novelty hand buzzer.
Never underestimate Mongo, Mr. Heenan. And I was like, oh my God, I can see why this company fell.
I almost turned it off there and said, fuck it, we're not doing the podcast. It's off.
Like, imagine being a fan, and you're like, okay, I've got this brand new wrestling company. You turn it on, less than 2 minutes in, you see that. I just want to see like how many people automatically turned it off. Because this is 1995. I'm not getting a second chance. I'm turning it off.
Oh yeah. Well, not to mention it took. I mean, it feels like forever. I know the whole episode's only 45 minutes long, but out of those 45 minutes, the first 2 to 3 are spent on a camera of these 3 guys not wrestling.
Oh,
and they're just sitting there talking about stuff. And half the time, I didn't really even understand what was happening. It's just cultural references from 1995. And it's like, what is even happening here? Like, can we just get to the first match?
Oh my God. And the first match is Flying Brian versus Jushin Thunder Liger.
Was it Flying Brian or was it Brian Pillman?
See, you kept going on about that.
Yeah,
like,
it's annoying.
And you know what? You were going on. You were like, oh, the people aren't going to know. It'll mess up. I was like, you can say Flying Brian. You can say Brian Pillman. They're going to know. No, because we're going to get into it. The audience here, morons. They're all stupid.
Yes, I agree.
So dumb.
But that doesn't change the fact that if you're going to have your very first day of this brand new episode, this brand new show that's competing in these Monday Night Wars, the least your commentary team could do is keep it consistent with what you're calling your wrestlers. If his entrance says he's Flying Brian, then during the match, call him Flying Brian.
Frying Brian.
Frying Brian.
Oh, that's going to be my new gimmick. I'm just going to be like making smash burgers and stuff like that. It's like hitting dudes with fry baskets.
That's what you need to
complete
be doing.
garbage wrestling. Speaking of the commentary, the whole time Mongo is coming up with like these second grade insults for Bobby the Brain. He's like, Bobby the Stain. And he's just holding it so bad. He's like, oh, Bobby Hernia. And just pretty soon, just Heyman just starts eviscerating him,
Yeah.
just verbally. But actually, Jushin Thunder Liger isn't even, I guess he's like technically with WCW. He signed with New Japan, and they didn't even actually, due to speculation, didn't even know that he was going to be wrestling on this, and they got pissed off that he was losing. And apparently that really soured New Japan's relationship with WCW at the time.
That's a really good idea to sour a relationship with another elite wrestling brand at the time.
Completely.
On your first day.
Oh, so the only thing dumber is the crowd chanting USA.
Yeah.
Just because, like, I understand the whole, like, foreign heel aspect. Here's the thing. There's no heel in this match. They're both working babyface.
Yeah, they're both working babyface, and they both, excuse me, I understand that Jushin Thunder Liger and Brian Pillman had just had a match a little bit before this, a few months over in New Japan Pro Wrestling. This was kind of a rematch for both of them.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't build any hype to that at all. They were just like, all right, well, here's Brian Pillman and here's this Japanese guy.
Yeah.
He's a top tier Japanese wrestler, but they gave no real insight to them, their background, the fact that they'd already had, a very, very good match in Japan just a little bit before, and saying, here's, basically a rematch of that. Let's see who can get the better man this time, because here's who won before. There was so much storytelling to be told on the commentary team that was just left out entirely, and that drove me bananas.
I will say, what is lacking in commentary was made up for in the ring. You're having Hurricane Ranas, Tornado DVTs, Tornado DVDs just flying about, cutting people in half, Tornado DDTs, and moonsaults galore. Like, you have to, even if you didn't like this episode, you have to at least admit, this opening match, if you've just been watching, like, we'll say WWF up until this point, would definitely grab you in because it's something completely new.
Very different.
And Eric Bischoff has said that he wanted this first match to bring an international flavor to WCW's programming and jump right off the rip, right off the goop with something different. And it totally did. This match was awesome. Well, was it like, a technical masterpiece? No, it was a nice, great little match. It was really good, told a story, and there was a lot of really good action. And during the whole time, no matter what I'll say about the commentary team, they are putting them over as actual athletes and not, these crazy characters. Jushin Thunder Liger is dressed like a Power Rangers villain, but the whole entire time they're talking about how good of an athlete he is, how great of an athlete Brian Pillman is. I just can't put it over enough. If you watch nothing else but this opening match, just please go and watch this because it was awesome.
And it's definitely one of the highlights. I won't even lie, though. It's actually not my favorite match on the card this evening.
Really?
No, and that's what surprised me is because as soon as I heard, because I didn't take any look at what was going to happen. I just watched it blindly going in. So when they said it was going to be Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger, I was extremely excited to watch that because I know they're both just workaholics in the ring. They just completely kill it. They're two of the best in the industry, period. And I won't lie, I was a little underwhelmed from it. I went back and I watched the Japanese match after the fact, and I think it was a little bit better. This wasn't really
working to a Japanese crowd.
Yeah, it's a very different crowd, and that's just what's going to expect.
But it's a really great opener.
It is. There is nothing wrong with it being the very first match.
And I wanted to compare it to what's going on Raw this week, and I looked it up, and there wasn't even a Raw this week. They were doing the US Open. Do you remember when they would do like the tennis matches in the fucking dog shows? You'd be like, all right, I'm getting ready to go watch Raw. Screw what mom says, we're staying up. And you go on, there's like some fucking dogs running around and shit like that. It's funny because my girlfriend now, she's really into dogs. She's a dog groomer. And she watches these like the Westminster, whatever the hell it is, the West Side Gangsta like dog show. And I'll watch it and I'll get, it's like a small form of PTSD watching the dog show because I go back to that childhood trauma of getting ready to watch some Raw and it's just like, oh, these fucking dogs.
It's like when your mom would put on the Puppy Bowl instead of the Super Bowl. And you're like, what the fuck, Mom?
But getting back into it, some great action. Pillman wins with a roll-up, and then they hug it out to further drive the point home.
I loved that, by the way.
They're having just a legitimate athletic competition. There's no face versus heel. This is pure athleticism and wrestling. It is great. So I just hope the fans felt dumb.
Yeah, it was a great match.
There's another, I think it's some Bash at the Beach down the line. It's like Rey Mysterio versus Ultimo Dragon, and halfway through they're just chanting USA, but neither of them. It's just like a bunch of bikers and stuff that are just drunk. They're like, hey, these two weird foreigners in masks. Better let them know where they're at right now. But then we go to a promo. Sting is literally bathed in lavender.
Yeah.
Like George Costanza would bathe himself in velvet. He is just covered head to toe in the best Prince and the Revolution purple that has ever been shown. He is like a Lowe's paint strip of the color purple right now.
Well, Sting can cut a promo.
He's great.
Straight up, Sting can just cut a promo.
I can listen to Sting talk for hours.
Absolutely.
About anything.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what he's talking about. Listen here, Hulk Hogan, you've got the pasta revolution.
Oh my God.
Pasta mania.
That would have been great. And we're going to get into it. We go to Hogan's pasta restaurant, Pasta Mania. The greatest thing ever would have been if like someone else would have opened up, like a heel would have opened up like a rival heel restaurant in the Mall of America.
Sting's Pizza.
No, not even Sting. Just like, woo, baby, this is Ric Flair down in, woo, Nature Boy sandwiches. They should have done that. It would have been great. Just like Flair out back selling like hero sandwiches and Reubens and stuff like that from a little stand. But we go right into it. Hogan's cut down at Pasta Mania. There are some African-American children, which no doubt 20 years later, their hearts will be broken.
Yeah. That's a tough pill to swallow.
I would love to interview those kids now and just being like, so how's it feel to know like Hulk Hogan said some really racy things, and back then he's just eating fettuccine, hanging out with you guys. Tell you what, brother, you can come on down here and eat some bucatini, but stay away from my daughter. But anyway, I want to point out, like I said, me and my girlfriend, we're getting ready to try and find a condo or something. We've got some money saved. I will put up the couple $1,000s we have saved if I can get some freeze-dried Hulk Hogan Pasta Mania. I don't care what it is. Like, if you can just send me like a bowl of anything, I just want it. I just have to have it.
Every time you open up the package, it's like, listen here, brother. You can't put this in the microwave.
That or Pepsi Blue.
Oh, yeah.
Just putting that out there. But Hogan's going off right now. I'm talking about all the great people in his restaurant. He's been saying he's been eating Hulkaroos and Hulky-U's. He's going to take on Big Bubba Rogers later in the night. He's going to beat him head to toe throughout the building and then feed him some pasta and then body slam him, which is actually what I do on every first date.
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
Let me take you to the Olive Garden and just give you a neck breaker right here. That's just romantic. Hulk Hogan's saying he's going to win because he's been pounding pasta mania all night. I don't think he understands how carbs work.
He has no idea how carbs work.
No idea at all.
No.
Up next, we've got the U.S. title match as your champion Sting is taking on, the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. Mongo's going off. He said, I might be an old punch drunk jock. And I'm like, yes, you are. Oh my God. I want to say,
a mess, mister.
Right now, my favorite match of the night is Mongo McMichaels versus his central nervous system. About 3 seconds in, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen the videos all the time. Lex Luger comes out and makes his debut wearing the puffy pirate shirt from Seinfeld.
Yep.
That is now our second Seinfeld reference, with many more to come.
I'm sure there's going to be at least a dozen more.
Oh my God. I want to say, many people, including myself, will go off about Lex Luger sucks, this and that. Lex Luger was pretty trash in WWF. If you go back and watch him and Jim Crockett, early WCW, he's awesome.
Yeah. He has talent. He has capability. But when you're using him to follow up Hulk Hogan and you're trying to just it's not going to work. You can't just force somebody into a spotlight like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we learned that with the Roman Reigns incident in modern WWE. Like, you can't, it's just not how that works.
I feel like there's definite parallels between that. But when he's in WCW, and it just feels so much more natural. Mm-hmm. It's weird finding yourself cheering for Lex Luger. And he shows up and the fans are hyped.
Oh,
they're going off.
Well, it's weird to think about, especially, in hindsight, because it's been 24 years since that happened. But Lex Luger was on WWF TV the night before. They had a paper where he was literally there the night before, and then now he's showing up to this WCW event. It's the very first one. People are like, is he stirring shit? What's the problem?
Yeah.
Why is Lex Luger here? And to find out that he signed with the company, that was huge. That's a huge deal. Yeah. That was like a modern day equivalent of when Jon Moxley showed up at the AEW pay-per-view, and people weren't 100% sure. Is he going to be there? Is he coming back to WWE as a new moniker? Like, what's going to happen? And it was a big deal. People pop on both instances. It's great.
You're making a lot of allegories to AEW. And I just want to ask you, because it was coming up, and I know the term really hadn't been invented yet, but I really want to ask you, man to man, do you think WCW had neckbeards? Do you think they had the neckbeard fans?
Absolutely.
That were like, WWF, I'm not going to watch the smoking guns. Like, I want to watch the real wrestling. You know what I mean?
I think every single wrestling promotion has had their neckbeards, except for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Smoky Mountain
God.
did not have those. They said people were like, what? It's wrestling. I'm stoked.
My God, just the banjo music that emanates every time you say the word Smoky Mountain.
I love Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
But getting back into
real quick. Fun fact, this podcast was originally going to be about Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Originally was going to be Smoky Mountain. It was just, but...
So we're going to give you a Smoky Mountain episode at some point. We have to.
I would love to.
Have to.
But anyway, getting back into the match, it's funny that Luger's coming out. He has such... And that's what they're pushing is he has such history with the Nature Boy and Sting. If you look, Arn Anderson's also coming out here too. You like when he does come out, you have Lex Luger, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair, and Mongo McMichael. You have four horsemen, and Mongo McMichael is the worst horseman ever.
Yeah.
Paul Roma was a better. All the shit Jeff Jarrett gets for being a horseman. Jeff Jarrett is awesome.
I disagree.
Okay, that can be. You're dumb, and that's the second time people have just seen how dumb you are on this podcast. But anyway,
he's still a better horseman than Mongo McMichael.
Oh, anyone.
Yes.
Anyone could have came out and been a better, like a bowl of Hulk Hogan's. Oh my God,
here, brother.
So the match is going on. Mongo is saying Luger was just here at Postamania. He's like, he wasn't even, which is really great just to put over. Like, this stuff is so good. I've got to go ruin my job at another company just to get a bowl. You know, just fully believe Luger's just walking around and he just walks and he's like, oh shit, this isn't near where Toys R Us is. Just like looking around. So
about the actual match, I know I mentioned it earlier. I said that it was, Sting delivering military press slams left and right to Ric Flair, and I still hold on to that, actually. I don't change that opinion, but I do...
It's all that is, I agree.
It's all it is. I really wish, and it actually stopped bothering me as much once they mentioned that Sting was utilizing his brute strength over Ric Flair's technical ability.
And that's what I wanted to put out. Like, the whole time, say you want about the commentary team, they are consistently putting over how strong Sting is and putting over his strength.
They are. It just took them, in my opinion, too long to get to that point because after a while I was like, okay, we're only seeing one move out of him. And I really like the idea of he's being this strong, tough guy. He's using only big impact moves. He's only using something that's going to hurt Ric Flair. While Ric Flair is using thumbs to the eyes, he's using any little trick that he can to get the advantage on this clearly much stronger, much younger opponent than him.
Oh, these guys work great together.
Yeah, they work awesome together. I just wish that Sting had used a little bit more versatility in his moveset to illustrate that point, because I think the point is very, very good. I think the story is very, very good. I just wish that Sting had done a little bit more outside the box to illustrate it. Because once they get out onto the floor, I think it starts picking up a little bit more pace, and then he throws them right back in, and the match is it's getting a little bit more quickness out of it, and I liked it. And the finish was also really, really good. It kept both guys strong. I expected some kind of wacky finish, once you had Arn Anderson come out there. I was expecting something to happen because you can't have Sting or Ric Flair lose on the debut episode of WCW. You want to keep both of these guys as strong as possible.
That's true.
So I was expecting that, and I thought they finished up very nicely.
Well, I'll come back to that, but I want to point out when he did the superplex, and Eric Bischoff was like, that ring just moved 2 feet. And Mongo's like, my monitor's out. And Heenan's like, mine just went dark. Like, it's over the top, it's cartoony, but it really is just putting out the raw brute strength and just the high impact that this match is giving us. But yes, Arn Anderson does come out wearing the freshest fucking Nike windbreaker tracksuit ever.
Yeah.
And just the freshest pair of cocaine white Nike shoes ever.
He just bought those. They're in the Mall of America.
Yeah, I know.
He just fucking bought them. Is the tag still on this, guys? Doesn't fucking matter. I'm Arn Anderson.
Oh, he's coming out. He's like, I'm dropping spine busters in style, baby. Oh my God. So Arn does come in and the bell rings and who wins this match? Because if I'm looking up different results, excuse me, from different websites, some will say Sting won by DQ. Like, didn't they say Sting won by DQ? But he doesn't actually attack Sting. So I'm sitting here wondering, like, they'll say Ric Flair won. I don't understand who's winning this match. It doesn't really matter because this whole match is putting over Sting's strength and putting over the angle that started a while back between Ric Flair and Arn Anderson when they got beat by Vader in a handicap match.
So I believe that I don't believe anybody actually won because they didn't announce a winner at the end of the match. I think they just declared it a no contest because it wound up...
It was interrupted.
It was just a wash kind of deal, which it should have technically been a disqualification for whomever got hit by Arn Anderson. And now that I'm trying to recall it, I can't remember who he hit or what, because I thought it was because somebody was holding the ropes, or excuse me, Ric Flair was holding the hold after the rope break and they counted him out, and I thought that he may have disqualified himself. I can't remember off the top of my
No,
head.
Anderson comes in right around that point.
Right, but I definitely feel it just became a no contest, kind of a wash sort of
It's
situation.
funny to see Arn Anderson upset about somebody cheating. Hey, you can only do that when I'm doing that with you. But anyway,
You're a liar.
they keep putting over these guys are the next pay-per-view that's going to be coming up is Fall Brawl War Games. They're putting over that Arn Anderson is going to be having a match with Ric Flair there. So after this match, Scott Norton comes ripping out, more pissed off than my dad the first time he heard vegan hamburger. He just comes out red faced, just ready to go. He is screaming and just going off. And the whole time he gets in Bischoff's face, he gets in Heenan's face, and then he comes nose to nose with Michael. And I'm like, oh my God, please. I just want to see Scott Norton just maul Mongo McMichael, just tear him from limb.
Sadly, that's not what we got.
No, it's not. You got Macho Man Randy Savage coming out.
That's right.
Saying, I wondered when you were going to show up, which has to be one of the few times, not, shitting on Scott Norton, that someone has actually been waiting for Scott Norton to show up. Well, it's weird because I was watching this back. And, I was watching Raw. Months before we even did this, I wanted to go back and watch Raw. And he came out, and before they said his name, I was like, who is that? And then I got mad at myself because, fun fact, Scott Norton is actually my dad's second favorite wrestler after Ultimate Warrior. So they set up the match next week, the September 11th episode of Nitro. It's going to be Macho Man versus Scott Norton. They want to do it right now. And then Eric Bischoff's like, this is not sanctioned. This is not
happening. This match will not happen.
Oh, my God. So funny story real quick about Scott Norton in North Korea. When they did this pay-per-view over in North Korea. So Scott Norton, Bischoff was saying he had something wrong with his blood pressure. He gets off the phone in North Korea, and the whole time, I guess, Scott Norton's wife is at home, pissed off at him, like, oh, you're going to go party and do all this stuff or whatever. So Scott Norton calls her, and he's like, no, you don't understand. He's like, North Korea is a really messed up place. They have propaganda. The North Korean government is listening to him why he does this, because it's a surveillance state.
Right.
Comes to his hotel room and arrests him, and he has to stay in that hotel room the whole time they're in North Korea.
Dang.
So I'm guessing this is like Kim Jong-un's grandfather is who is doing this, had beef with Scott Norton. I would have paid to see that.
That's
match.
crazy.
That would have been great. My God.
That's very different than to the Dennis Rodman of today. Building relationships.
Dennis Rodman had to go back and apologize for America's aggression to North Korea and Scott Norton's incident back in the early 90s at WCW Collision Course.
It was a different time.
It was a different time. Speaking of different times, we get a video package for Sabu, who is also just coming off from New
great
Japan.
video package, by the way.
Dude, it was crazy.
A little lengthy, but great.
But it showed off just how different. Again, if you're just tuning in and you've been watching the very cartoony WWF and you see, the Pillman Luger match, and you see this, Sabu just going crazy, doing all these flips, it's going to pull you in. You're like, wow, this is something really different. This is a complete 180 from what I'm watching on WWF.
You meant Pillman Liger.
Yeah, sorry. What did I say?
Luger.
Oh, Luger. God, that. Yeah, but if you're watching Pillman versus Liger, then you're watching this hype package. It is really great. It's going to pull you in and show you they're doing something different.
Especially with what WWF was doing at the time. It was not that kind of pace. It was not that kind of action. And it was definitely not Sabu.
No.
Sabu was on a whole different playing field.
One thing I would have liked to see that we didn't get, because Sabu's really just in for a cup of coffee in WCW, a cup of coffee and a bagel. I would love to have seen Sabu versus Randy Savage, and who can be more fucking insane? Just, oh my God. But after that, we get something a little less insane. We get Mr. Wall Street doing a promo, and it is the IRS.
Yes.
And he alludes to that. He knocks down the new generation and calls it the few generation, which honestly has the same delivery as Mongo McMichael has his same little jokes and everything.
So real quick, were you a fan of this promo or no? Just black and white, yes or no?
No, because I feel like, because he's going off and he's like, I'm sure the IRS will be watching. And, and nothing against Bray Wyatt's dad, but I'm just, I'm not very hyped.
No.
It's not getting me hyped. I'm like, I'm sure in 95 I would have been like, oh, he told him,
yeah.
But still, I'm just not feeling it. I don't think Wall Street is really going to be feeling it during his run. We'll get into that, in later episodes and everything. This is his only time as Mr. Wall Street. He looks goofy. He's wearing Ted DiBiase's knockoff jacket with the gold dollar sign. So Very, very weird. Very, very goofy.
Yeah, I really wasn't a fan of that. It felt like a watered down version of DiBiase.
No, it really was. And it's just like he's like some...
And I'm not even gonna lie, I actually don't remember that character. I don't remember anything about it at all. I remember IRS. I didn't remember anything about Mr. Wall Street.
Which is weird, is I have more memories of him than I really do IRS.
Really?
Yeah, just from watching mostly WCW and watching a little bit of WWF and stuff like that. I just remember him coming out and just his lethargic matches and stuff like that. So, but something that's not lethargic, we're getting to our main event. Hulk Hogan versus Big Bubba Rogers for the WCW title, brother.
This was my match of the night, and I did not expect it. But
Really?
I thought it was actually pretty good.
And I'm going to say, I didn't expect, and I'm going to tell you right now, Big Bubba Rogers makes this match.
Yes.
He is selling like a madman. Everyone talks about Andre, Savage, Warrior. Big Bubba Rogers is like one of Hogan's best enemies. Because he just sells his entire ass off.
He's a great worker. He just knows how to work. He's really, really good at being a big guy.
It's so great. And every time Hogan does like a misstep or a missed big boot, he's still there to pick up the pieces and make it look good.
Yep.
Something else that is selling me is Hulk Hogan's new entrance theme, which I want to say right now, going on record, is better than Real American.
Yes,
it is. He's a man. It's so good.
I liked that impression. That was solid.
Oh.
No, I thought that this match was absolutely match of the evening because I won't lie, there wasn't a whole lot of story to tell because it's kind of like Hulk Hogan's showing up and he's wrestling another big man, and that's really the story. You know, it's somebody else trying to beat Hulk Hogan, but
Big Bubba does that headlock and just jumps up and down with him and doesn't move Hogan. Like Big Bubba Rogers is the only thing moving in that entire stratosphere. Everything else is still.
Yeah.
It's like time stopped except for him.
Yeah. He just knows how to do everything right with Hulk Hogan. He knows how to put him over and make him look like the monster they want him to be. Especially when around this time, I mean, it's 1995. Hulk Hogan's been doing this a long time at this point. For
years.
He's already starting to stiffen up. And that's honestly not a rip against Hogan. Like, he'd been doing that leg drop forever.
No.
That's bad on your spine. That's bad on your movement. Everything sucks at that point. I couldn't imagine dropping a leg drop for 20 years. Fuck no.
There's a point where Rogers throws Hogan into the ropes and then jumps over him like he does. And then Heenan says, that'll make you cough up the pasta. So I think it would have been great if Hogan just had a little bit of like rigatoni in his mouth and been like, whoa, brother. So then Bubba goes out to the ring and starts attacking Jimmy Hart, which we know is a no-no when Hulk Hogan is around.
Nope.
And then Hulk takes Jimmy's jacket and just blatantly starts cheating. Just putting it over Bubba's face, showing his nostrils some style.
Yeah.
Just beating him with overhand fists while his eyes are covered. The ref doesn't care because Hulk Hogan is immune to the rules. He's a sovereign citizen.
Absolutely.
From any form. So then, you know the drill here. Hogan throws him into the ropes, hits him with the big boot, leg drop, the one, the dose, and the trace. This one goes to Hogan.
Yep.
And then the Dungeon of Doom, Kevin Sullivan, Zodiac, who is Bruce the Barber Beefcake, doing, out of all the Barber's gimmicks, this is by far his worst one. The Zodiac is terrible, and Kamala's there, and it's also funny because Mongo's like, where's Kamala from? And he didn't, not even missing a beat, he's just like, Uganda. Also, another great thing going on through the night is he's like, yeah, Heenan's just had enough of Mongo. He's like, yeah, you're used to sitting on the bench cheering, aren't you? Like, Heenan is just eviscerating Mongo. It's literally like watching a toddler versus a pack of wolves verbally.
Yeah, honestly, McMichael didn't stand a chance in any of those rebuttals. Like,
oh, no.
There was no creativity. There was no flow. It was just kind of like, here's a zippy one-liner.
It's atrocious. Like, I will say, people go off about the current style of commentating in WWE, and this isn't much better, but it does feel very organic. It definitely feels like, you know what I mean? They're going back and forth and it's going right off the rip, and I do enjoy that.
Yeah, it's still better than WWE's current commentary. And I like all three members of the WWE commentary team overall. I do. And I say WWE just as the main show.
As the present
show.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have a problem with any of them individually, but the way that everything is working together now and the lack of focus on the current match, I mean, yeah, McMichael not really focusing on the current match and kind of hurling insults, like, that's kind of what happens when you have that third wheel on the commentary team. I'm a fan of two-wheel teams, but, you know, that's kind of what happens, but it still felt organic. We still focused on the match. We still had broadcasting on the match, and it still felt if you were just listening to the broadcast, you weren't watching it at home. If you just, maybe it's on in the other room and you're away, you can still tell what's going on. You can still get an idea of what's happening, which is different than what I feel WWE is currently doing right now, where you don't really get an idea of what's happening unless you're watching the episode.
No, definitely. The people will just go on about angles. And this comes down, in further WCW, it happens too. You'll be having a match and they'll just be going over something Hogan's doing.
Right.
So, but I totally agree. The commentary, isn't really, Mongo McMichael is atrocious here. But it is at least like organically atrocious. Yeah. If I can say that. Like, it's
not
garbage.
The worst I've ever heard.
It's garbage, but it's garbage from Whole Foods.
Yeah.
So then, having seen enough, Luger comes out and makes the save. They're clearing house. And then Hogan and Luger are back to back and they turn around and square up. That was awesome.
It looked great.
It was great. That got you hyped. And Bischoff is like, whoa, like, oh my God. That definitely got me like, this is what? Over, 20 years later, I'm still like, oh.
Yeah, because we know the history behind what happened with Hogan, and then you're moving on with Luger and everything else, and now you've got them both in the same ring. It looked really good. My issue here is they didn't end it there. The episode should have ended there and be like, all right, guys, well, that's all we've got time for. We need to tune in next week and see what's going to happen between Luger and Hogan.
Oh, no, my friend.
No.
I'm so happy they kept going because it gave us some just truly amazing one-liners. Hulk Hogan tells Lex Luger to go back where you come from, which is probably not the best thing for Hulk Hogan to be
definitely not
saying at any point, but due to the things that happened in the past few years, that's definitely something Hogan should never ever say again.
That is a hindsight situation, isn't it?
So Luger gets in Hogan's face and he says, I've beat who you beat. I've done what you've done and everything like that. Presumably at first, I thought if he was at Pastamania, he was complaining about the prices.
Yeah, absolutely was.
$10 for a Stromboli? Fuck you, Terry.
This is 1995.
But he says, I'm tired of playing with kids. I want to come here and play with the big boys. And just again, everyone should really just be watching what they're saying for the future. Like, my God.
Yeah.
Like, I know this is 1995 and not everyone can, has that kind of, I want to say like generational thing of like, that's it funny. You know what I mean? But still, like,
it's definitely different today compared to back then. But I'm sure somebody in the audience was like, hey.
And right after that, Hogan is going off saying, Luger, you don't have to prove anything to me. Just stick out that stinky palm, brother. And shake my hand. And by this point, Sting and Savage have hit the ring. And Randy Savage is looking like, fuck, is that all you have to do to get a world title shot around here? He's like, I've done the same thing you've done like 3 or 4 times. What the fuck?
We had the power handshake.
Oh, definitely. Like, that should have been like, hey, look, every time we shook hands. So next week, you got it. Luger versus Hogan.
Luger
versus Hogan for the world title set up for next week's main event. Geez. What was your best match? You said your best match was Hogan versus Big Bubba Rogers?
Absolutely.
I want to go out.
Real quick, before we go on to best matches, I want to come back to that. I want to talk about after Hogan and Luger, they go back to the commentary team and McMichael's holding that dog.
Oh my God.
Can we talk about that real quick?
The dog was more over with me than anybody else. They should have let the dog do commentary.
Absolutely.
Do you just imagine Bobby the Brain Heenan just ripping on that dog, just burying him? Oh, you dumb little mutt. Oh, what are you going to do? I would just pay to see Bobby Heenan yell at anything.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's gone now. I wish he would have just done like a podcast of him just burying certain things.
Just stuff and
just
items
like
in
a
the
water
house.
bottle. Like, what are you doing? Stupid. You're not needed. You're not biodegradable. It's going to take 10 years for you to break down.
I got a glass jar. It's a glass jar. It's made of mason. It's not made of mason.
But anyway, I would say my best match definitely got to go to Flying Brian versus Liger. Loved it. I feel like everything else, not everything else, but the Flair and Sting is definitely more of just them putting over putting over an angle. Hogan versus Big Bubba is good, but you've seen that before. If you watch Saturday night's main event, you've seen that before. If you've watched most WWF broadcasting or shows at that point, you've seen that before. Pillman and Liger was just something great and new, and I just need you at this point to tell me that you're wrong and that you love this episode of Nitro, because it was great. It's so good. It is so different than what's going on at WWF.
It is absolutely different, and different is usually, I can't say different is usually good. That's not always true. But in this case, different was better. This was better than any average episode of Monday Night Raw at this given point in time. However, I just had so many issues and nitpicks with the show. On the grand scheme of things, it is different, it's new, it's wholesome, there's a lot that's going on that's a breath of fresh air for, especially a budding competition. I have so many little nitpicks about, how the quality of the matches were, the quality of the commentary. I understand it's the day one, and that's kind of why I'm holding it in this higher regard. Excuse me, it's not like they had time to get lazy over time. This is when they needed to be best foot forward. Everything should have been flawless. Everything should have been impeccable. And I get there's going to be hiccups, but some of it was just like...
I think they put their best foot forward. I really do.
I don't think Pastamania was a necessity.
I think Pastamania is a necessity. People need to know where to get their noodles from.
It's ridiculous.
But it's Hulk Hogan. Of course he's going to come in there and just kind of promo.
Problem.
But I understand, but you're complaining about Hulk Hogan in 1995, and I get that. But WCW definitely needed Hogan.
They're
going to let him do a promo wherever he wants.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It could have been Milkshake-a-mania.
Yep.
It
still would have been awful, is my point, though.
I
still
don't
would have
think
been
so.
awful.
Hulk Hogan just bashing like peanut butter cup and mint chocolate chip milkshakes, like, let me tell you something, bro. Just a mouthful of just dessert just going off.
See, I'm just waiting, and here's the thing. Like I mentioned at the very beginning in our intro, we're going to be covering Monday Nitro in its entirety from 1995 till 2001.
I was going to say forever, but then I forgot it only ran for less than 7 years.
Yeah, less than 6, really. It was like 5.5. So we're going to be covering it from its entirety, through its entirety, and I cannot wait till like 1997, 1998, when the Monday Night Wars were really starting to heat up.
I really don't care until ICP comes out.
Oh, I can't wait. We're doing a full ICP episode.
This is the timeline before ICP shows up is literally just BICP before ICP.
Yeah.
Like that is just the golden, the bronze era really till ICP comes and Shaggy 2 Dope and Violet J just revolutionize Monday Night Wrestling for the rest of our eyes. But I still got to argue. I think this was great. I think from start for an hour, they packed in so much to make you come back next week. There's no way you're not tuning in next week.
See, and in 1995, you're probably right. I'm looking at this with a lot of hindsight. And I think you're looking at this from the perspective of sitting in 1995, September 4th, 1995, like you're there. I have this perspective of looking at it from back, looking back at it. And I have a hard time even saying I would tune into that again.
No, but we're desensitized by how many options we have to watch wrestling at this point. I can get on obviously they didn't have, you know what I mean? Smartphones at that point, they had cell phones, like the big clunky, what I mean? Gigantic, 20-pound dumbbell. But we're really kind of spoiled by how much wrestling we can watch from all over the world. It's only a small amount of time for just watching wrestling from other parts of the Milky Way galaxy.
Yeah, at this point.
Flobnor 9 versus Unbaka 2 and just a Galaxy Steel cage match. But I'm looking at it from the 1995 point of view. You are right at that. If this is 1995, I am just tired of the cartoony, just goofy WWF at this point. I'm just hyped. This would split my wig. This was just right off the goop. This was really good. Was there? Yeah, you're watching Hulk Hogan wrestle a big guy for the millionth time, but it's very fresh. It's very new. And I'm sure there were some people I'm going to watch Hulk Hogan wrestle, the big boss man again. But then it catches you in there. It does have some really good bait. Because if you don't like that, you have a very good alternative to watching the international flavor, Jushin Thunder Liger, to seeing people promos for Sabu.
Which those international flavors and those extraneous pieces, those are what became the standard for WCW
the core of it, really.
That's really what became the core, was all of the cruiserweight matches, your smaller dudes, your more exciting, the fast-paced stuff, rather than WWF's big man matches, which ultimately was the end of this episode, was that style, but that's really not what WCW became to be known for as the time went on. You had much smaller guys performing at a much higher, faster work rate, such as the Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger. So that being the very first match that you see is a really good indicator of how the future is going to be for the company. Yeah. I just wish there was a little bit more of that, even though it really wasn't even my top match. I did want to see more of it.
No, it'd be great, but for an hour, that is a lot to pack into an hour. Mm-hmm. I think, going back to the present, I do think AEW is going to draw, and hopefully will draw, a lot of inspiration from that.
Well, and they're pulling that same idea of pulling from the Japanese audience as well, pulling from the indie scene, utilizing a different style, but they've also got their WWE flavor mixed in because you've got Cody Rhodes, you've got Dustin Rhodes, you've got Chris Jericho, you have Jon Moxley, who was WWE, but he's clearly moved away from that style.
No, he's not
doing that anymore.
Completely different.
Completely
Almond
different.
milk to cow's milk.
Yeah.
Like, definitely. But, I mean, I still just got to keep bringing it up. I think if you're looking at this from present view, yeah, it's going to be goofy and not going to be, you know, the best thing you've ever saw. Hulk Hogan's going around talking about people's stinky palms.
And that annoys the shit out of me. I'm so sick of it. So maybe that's the problem with me looking at this from the time traveler's perspective. It's just there's so many goofy aspects and so many missteps that I just can't wait for them to iron them out so we can get to the WCW that I was watching in 1997. And maybe I'm looking at this through rose-tinted glasses. Maybe we'll get there and I'll think that's shit too. But honestly, I doubt it. I genuinely doubt it because there was a lot of high points for WCW in the 90s.
You're talking about wrinkles. Even your favorite shirt, fresh out the dryer with a few wrinkles, still feels really, really good compared to that boring, outdated, mundane wool sweater your grandma did. Sure. That is WWF at this point.
To be fair, you grew up watching WCW more, didn't you?
Oh, tons. My mom would let me watch WCW more towards like, you know, the later 90s because they didn't, you know, right now WWF isn't, or sorry, like right at this point, WWF isn't doing a lot of their Attitude Era stuff really at all. But as it progressed, definitely my mom was like, no, I really don't. I would still watch it. You know what I mean? Like, but my mom can't tell me what to do. She's about to come through your door and start. Michael, open that goddamn door. I know he's in there. But no, like I grew up, my family was way more into WCW. Maybe that's because, you know, you're from Florida. I understand that. My family's all from, you know, Kentucky. More of the Appalachian area and stuff like that. Maybe it's just because they were more used to that style of wrestling,
right?
Compared to what was going on, you know, up in, you know, the New York, Connecticut kind. But I definitely grew up being, and still am to this day, a huge mark for WCW. I love it. There's just that aesthetic, and you know, I really try not to be a slave to my nostalgia captors, but it's just, I just love it. There's something I can't describe that just takes me back. So I'm really not trying to look through rose-tinted glasses. If something sucks, I'll say it sucks.
Absolutely.
I have no problem saying it's something that's just completely terrible. Hulk Hogan's promos, while funny, are completely terrible.
Right.
But there's enough entertainment for me there. Even a horrible Hulk Hogan promo is still better than the worst, you know, overly scripted promo.
For sure. I think for me, I grew up watching WWF. I only watched WCW on occasion. When the Monday Night Wars were happening, I went to WWF. That's what I went to when I was younger, because especially once you started butting into the Attitude Era, I'd occasionally check over to WCW because, like any other, you know, child at that time, I was a big Goldberg mark. I was a big mark for the NWO and everything that was going on there. I needed to see what was happening, but quite frankly, I was more intrigued by the likes of Kane, by Steve Austin, by Shawn Michaels, and all of these other, you know, characters. You know, once The Rock started coming into play, they had so many of the top tier figures that I wanted to see that WCW really wasn't providing on. And at the time, I didn't realize that the mid-card really is where it's at for wrestling. So I didn't have the same kind of appreciation. Had I been into the mid-card when I was a younger child, like I am now, I probably would have been watching WCW a lot more.
Oh no,
because that's where they're shown.
If it would have, like, if we're adults, almost 30 in 1995, you know your ass would definitely be going to Nitro.
Yeah.
You're watching it and they're putting them over. I'm sorry, every single Nitro episode, they really are, you know, until it's the comment, it just goes downhill, which, my God, WCW does go downhill, but we're not here to talk about that yet. I really want to put over, like, we're not here to really bury them or just talk about how bad they are. Like I said, I'm a huge mark for WCW.
I have one more point, actually.
But sorry, real quick, let me finish. They're putting it over as, like, real athleticism. You're seeing, like I said, the great athletic skill and technical skill and just high flyingness of these guys mixed in with your big man, you know, Hulk Hogan, Pasta Mania running wild.
And yes, that's true for the first episode. I think what I realize as we're talking about this and we're discussing commentary teams putting people over, WCW at this time didn't have Jim Ross.
No.
And that is a crucial part of why I'm watching Monday Night Raw. Jim Ross is there putting these guys over like nobody can.
Oh, he was great. I think
unparalleled in my opinion.
Ross's work in WWF, in WWE too, can't be the same company, but still, if we're going to be talking about
It's a different era.
Yeah, it's a different era. That's why we constantly keep saying WWF, WWE. But Jim Ross's work for early WCW, amazing.
Yes.
He is just great. He, like I said, he is, and that's a lot of the speculation, like a lot of like Bruce Pritchard's show and other stuff like that. Why Vince was so hesitant to bring on Ross was because he would talk about their athletic background. And
right.
I think that's something that really sets apart.
You need it.
It's like you are actually in the zone, in the know, watching these real athletes collide. And WCW backs it up with some really great WCW's in-ring work, million miles ahead. Million miles ahead. It is amazing.
Absolutely.
It is like a toddler on a tricycle versus like someone just in a fucking Mustang.
The difference is, though, yes, I think WCW overall had the better work rate, but WWF did have your Shawn Michaels. It did have your Bret Harts. It did have, I just had a name and I just lost them. Oh my God. Live on podcast, lost the name who I wanted.
You're really messing. Oh my God. They had Sid Vicious. My God. The Luchador. One of the greatest in-ring technicians ever. Sid Vicious, my God, with a three-winged whippoorwill necklock he learned from Stu Hart.
I was looking for Goldust. Sorry, Dustin Rhodes. Dustin Rhodes versus Steve Austin. Anything like that. Goldust, I mean, his in-ring work was excellent. Yeah. They had better matches in WCW, in my opinion, than they did when they got to WWF, but when I'm growing up and when I'm watching and you see Goldust on, that's such a prolific character to watch coming down the ring, and you see him work his ass off in the ring.
Into perspective, this is the 90s. WCW is still very cartoony.
Yes.
You have the Dungeon of Doom, like the Taskmaster, Kevin Sullivan running around. You've got, Kamala there, and it gets, in the next episode, it just starts coming. I love the Dungeon of Doom because I am just such a fan of just like that Southern cartoony wrestling so much. I love it. But this is the 90s. It's still very cartoony, but I feel like you can have the cartooniness if you still are really, really pushing that athletic sport and just the high impact and the high flying and just the technical skill of all these guys. It is great. It is a gigantic mix of flavors. It is not homogenized at all. There is different flavors and textures and everything going around.
Absolutely.
I can relate anything to food because I am fat.
Well, I feel we've both driven our points home. We both are looking at this from different perspectives. We got different ideas of what we want. Overall, you've convinced me it's not a bad episode. It's not as bad as I was thinking.
Thank you. Podcast is over. That's all I want to do. This is all a ruse to make you
realize the first episode is not that bad.
There will not be a second episode of this show. It's canceled.
I'm looking forward to watching episode 2 now and seeing if I can look at it from a different perspective. You got to jostle that mic around, don't you?
I just started swinging at it. I was just feeling myself, and I was just like a punching bag. I'm like, yeah.
But I am looking forward to seeing how episode 2 pans out for Monday Nitro, the September 11th episode. Who did you say was going to be on the card?
Oh my God. So you've got Norton versus Randy Savage in just a rip roar. You have Sabu in his debut match against Daz Wonder Kid, Alex Wright. And then you also have Luger versus Hogan for the WCW title. I want to put over again real quick before we end. Hogan does a great job of putting over the WCW title.
Yes, he does.
He's like, this is all that matters. This is the thing. Like, you know what I mean? It is really good. Say what you want about Hogan. I'm sure when he said rigatoni, he had a Freudian slip and maybe started that with another letter. And I need those outtakes. I want those outtakes. Production company, I don't care. I don't need the pasta. I need the Freudian slip with the N instead of the R for whatever. We're gonna hit me up. My email is bootywarrior420@gmail. I have PayPal. I will come. I messenger pigeon any way you need that. But it is really good. Here's the thing. Everyone is just putting over how great WCW is.
Yeah.
Like I feel like everyone believes in this and it's great. They have that full aligned spirit of this is what we're doing. F those other guys. This is where you need to be at on Mondays. I'm tuning in. Like I have to because now we're doing this podcast.
You have to now.
But if it's 95, I'm definitely tuning in. I am biting my fingernails and just pushing people out of my way at work until next Monday.
I said earlier I wouldn't be tuning in. And the more I think about it, the more wrong I am about that statement. Because quite frankly, they could have delivered hot shit. And I would have still tuned in the next week.
Because you want to see.
I want to see. I love wrestling that much. It really wouldn't have mattered what they put out. I would still have been watching it. And this is...
What stinky body part is Hulk Hogan going to talk about next?
Is he going to bring back the hand buzzer?
The hand buzzer, that's what it was. I couldn't remember because it's like so far gone.
It's a novelty hand, but nobody fucking uses those
that's
anymore.
That's great, yeah. Why don't you just play me some damn Dean Martin while you're at it? I'm sure my grandmother thought that was hilarious. Oh, that Mongo McMichaels. He sure is a jokester. That damn Bobby Heenan.
Eric Bischoff's going to have a whoopee cushion under his chair.
Oh my God. They should have really just started driving, like just Mongo playing pranks.
Honestly, that would have gotten him over.
It would have been great. He's got a slingshot in his back pocket, riding to the ring on a skateboard. My God. So.
Go McMichael on a skateboard.
But anyway, thank you guys for tuning in.
I'm Phony Hawk.
Oh my fucking. Anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Every week, every Monday is what we're going to try and shoot for. The Big Gold Podcast. No matter what you think of us, we're still better than any episode of WCW Thunder.
Yeah.
That's just factual.
We're going to do
that.
Get
NASA in here. Get NASA in here because that is just a fact. I am peace, everyone. To my left is my best friend and my co-host, Mr. Michael Ogden.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Farewell.